This is a true story. A British man was wanted in connection with a gangland murder that happened in London in 2007. This man didn't hang around in the UK for long and just disappeared. He became one of Britain's most wanted men. The guy, unbeknownst to police, traveled to Southeast Asia. He spent a number of years in the country of Laos, living under a new identity. He later moved to northern Thailand, where he carried on with his life, got a job, made new friends, although he never told anyone his real name. 5 years after the murder, when the man was 29, he was arrested while working. The game was up, and along with the Thai police, it was Interpol that got him. Let's now tell you a bit about this organization. The full name of Interpol is actually the International Criminal Police Organization, and it calls itself an intergovernmental organization. Currently, there are 194 member countries. In its own words, Interpol helps police to make the world a safer place. How did it get started? Well, back in the early 20th century, police around the world made some attempts to work together. Criminals, as you know, tend to move around when prison is staring them in the face, and crime anyway back then was becoming more international, such as what happened in Thailand. Local cops at times might need help when looking for foreign criminals. The first iteration of Interpol was created in 1923, and then it was named the International Criminal Police Commission. The countries that signed up at first were Austria, Germany, Belgium, Poland, China, Egypt, France, Greece, Hungary, Italy, the Netherlands, Romania, Sweden, Switzerland, and Yugoslavia. A few years later, and the UK signed up, but it wasn't until 1938 that the USA got on board. Many countries took themselves out of Interpol when Nazi Germany took control of the organization, but they later rejoined. Interpol has a constitution, and the first two clauses of that are 1. To ensure and promote the widest possible mutual assistance between all criminal police authorities within the limits of laws existing in the different countries and in the spirit of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 2. To establish and develop all institutions likely to contribute effectively to the prevention and suppression of ordinary law crimes. The areas in which Interpol works come in under three main kinds of crime. Those are terrorism, cybercrime, and organized crime. That gangland murder we talked about would be organized crime. These are the three main areas, but Interpol will also track down criminals who might have been involved in white-collar crime, or drug trafficking, or even copyright infringement, or more. The web is large. Interpol, of course, has a massive database and many people work in the organization. All this has to be paid for, and each member country will chip in. The yearly budget is said to be $127 million. The General Secretariat, which has its offices in Lyon, France, is staffed by over 700 people. These folks, comprising of police officers and general civilians, do most of the day-to-day stuff. They're the main workforce. But then in each member country, there's a National Central Bureau, and it's there that people will work alongside the General Secretariat when criminals are being hunted. There's also a General Assembly, which is kind of a governing body. On its own website, Interpol writes that it has a system of communications that all countries use, and this is called I-24/7. This is a massive database that everyone can use. The FBI, for instance, might be after a person and somehow he ends up in Germany. It's not as if German cops and American cops share all their information, so this international database is helpful. If the FBI has a tip-off that an American criminal might be in Germany, it can contact a German Interpol. Interpol cannot arrest anyone, but it can do work that will lead toward an arrest. Let's say someone has committed a crime and gone on the run. In that case, Interpol might issue something called a notice. That's basically a be on the lookout for a certain person. It might also be a missing person. It could also be about an unidentified body that has been found, or perhaps some folks that have managed to escape from prison. In the case of the gang member we talked about at the start of the show, when he left, the UK Interpol would have put out a red notice. In this case, he was hard to find because he got a new name and a passport and decided to keep his head down in rural Laos. It was when he got a job that lights started flashing. All those notices are color-coded depending on what they mean. The most common notice by a long way is a red notice. This is how that's defined. To seek the location and arrest of a person wanted by a judicial jurisdiction or an international tribunal with a view to his or her extradition. On its website, Interpol is quick to point out, a red notice is an international wanted persons notice, but it's not an arrest warrant. Blues are also popular, and they're defined as to locate, identify, or obtain information on a person of interest in a criminal investigation. There are a lot of greens too, and they're described like this: to warn about a person's criminal activities if that person is considered to be a possible threat to public safety. So now let's have a look at some of the real-life notices. Interpol said the public often helps with tracking people down, so you can actually go on its website and see who has been given a red notice. There are thousands of red notices right now. We found a guy from Georgia named Nikifor Kutaladze. He's wanted for aggravated murder and aggravated kidnapping. There's a photo of him and a short description. You never know, perhaps if you looked at him, you might find he's the quiet guy that just moved in down the street. We found a girl who's just 18. She's from Russia and her name is Layla Gatagazeva. It's said she's part of a terrorist organization. We also found an American guy, his name is Eugene Palmer, and he's wanted for second-degree murder. If you think you've seen someone who's been given a notice, you can contact Interpol or the local police where you live. Interpol also has a number of people marked with a yellow notice. This is sad to see because it's the missing people list, and many of these people are young kids. There's also a lot of missing adults that Interpol is looking for. You can use the Interpol site to look at stolen works of art, but to do that you must sign up for an account, and we didn't want to go that far. There are over 50,000 stolen items in that database. Then there are the controversies. For instance, what if one country calls you a criminal and puts out a notice, but other countries don't agree? We might take the example of an American-born British financier named Bill Browder. Russia has declared this man a threat to national security, but attempts to have him arrested after issuing a red notice have so far not worked because Interpol has said it's a matter of politics, not crime. In 2019, a story in Reuters began like this. Russia has asked Interpol for the 7th time to arrest Bill Browder, a London-based Kremlin critic who leads a campaign to punish Russian officials for the 2009 death of his lawyer Sergei Magnitsky. Browder has accused Russian officials of human rights abuses and corruption, and Russia has accused Browder of deliberate bankruptcy and tax evasion. Browder has accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of using Interpol to have him arrested when he says he's done nothing wrong and is unfairly being hunted by corrupt officials. Browder said the investigation against him was a sham, and he's also accused Russian officials of poisoning his associates. From what we can see, despite Russia's attempts, Interpol will not allow Browder's name on the wanted list. In 2019, though, reports suggested that Interpol might change its mind, which some critics said will put the organization's integrity at risk. This is not the first controversy, and some activists have accused Interpol of allowing corrupt or oppressive governments to hunt for people worldwide using these notices. One human rights NGO wrote, "Interpol has been allowing itself to be used by oppressive regimes across the world to export the persecution of human rights defenders, journalists, and political opponents." So this is the gray area. Let's say someone has criticized what some people might call an oppressive regime, and that regime is part of the Interpol organization. That activist might be accused of a crime against a government, but many others might not see it that way. A well-known case of this happening was when a former Bahraini soccer player was arrested. Again, it was in Thailand. What had he done? Well, it turns out that this man, Hakim Al-Arabi, was wanted by the Bahrainian government and they put out a red notice on him. According to fair trials, it's not always easy to see if there's a notice against you, so some activists might get the surprise of their lives at airports around the world. The Fair Trials website explains how someone could go about finding out if there's a notice against them. This Bahraini guy accused the government and authorities in his country of torturing and abusing other football players who had supported an uprising against the government. He was then charged with a crime of vandalism. This is how he said the authorities treated him. "They spent 3 hours hitting me hard on my legs, while saying, 'We'll break your bones, we'll destroy your future, you'll never play football again with these legs.'" This man then fled the country and went to Iran, then Malaysia, over to Thailand, and then to Australia. That's where he stayed, but later he decided to take a holiday to Thailand, and that's when Thai authorities arrested him, as he was under a red notice. Bahrain wanted him extradited and to face the music over there, and while he spent a couple of months in a Thai jail, he was eventually sent back to Australia. Activists have written that the case of Hakim Al-Arabi is by no means an isolated incident. We found quite a few cases of refugees fleeing countries and governments they had criticized and then were given red notices. Interpol has tried to make the situation better and added some reforms to its refugee policy, but it seems in the case of Al-Arabi, Interpol didn't remove the red notice quickly enough and the man ended up in jail and not exactly getting the holiday he wanted. It seems Interpol doesn't always get the information it needs regarding refugees, so sometimes the red notices stay. The Conversation writes, Al-Arabi's case highlights the life-threatening consequences that can result from the misuse of cooperative mechanisms like red notices. The upshot, though, was Interpol's Secretary General stating that from now on, notices will be reviewed much more rigorously. For the most part, though, Interpol does a good job in tracking down some very bad people. It's only when things get political that the organization has been criticized. By the way, you're now likely thinking that working for Interpol could be quite an interesting job. We're always happy to help you out at the Infographics show, so we'll just tell you now how you might get on board with the organization. There are lots of things you can do for them, and if you go to their website right now, you'll see what vacancies they have. Not all require that you've worked in law enforcement, far from it. You'll then need to create an account on their website, which is easy enough. You'll likely have to give them information such as your passport number or national ID number. Then just submit your application along with your resume. You should know that to get into this organization, you'll have to go through background checks. The good thing is that anyone over 18 can apply, and as Interpol covers so many nations, we imagine most of you people listening can work for them. A lot of positions will require that you have a university degree, but not all. For more information on secretive investigation agencies, go watch FBI vs. CIA. How do they compare? Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.